Who's our interview with? Mike Fullen. Okie dokie.
I don't know why that's doing that. Howdy, howdy. Welcome on into the pre-show before the free show, where there was a hot mic, but we caught it, which is good.
Which is good because I was about to confess something terrible.
That's fair.
I've been listening to a lot of true crime podcasts, and I just think that I'm like, you know what? What if I just confess to
Texas football confessing. Well, that doesn't really work. Texas confessing today. There we go. That makes more sense.
Today. Texas Confessions today. Hello, everybody. Welcome on into the pre-show before the free show. Look at us. 2 shows in a row.
Who would have thought?
That's pretty remarkable, I would say. Good job, us, doing 2 shows in a row on this, the daily live show for Texas high school football, college football, recruiting, lifestyle, romance, etc. So, do you have a problem?
Yes.
Flying late at night? Because
problem in what way?
Like, do you enjoy it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Because last night I dropped off my mother-in-law at the airport, and her flight was at 10:35, and that is back to St. Louis where she lives. Mm-hmm. That is about the latest flight that I think I've ever seen scheduled.
Isn't a red eye considered going out at like 11? Like when can we Google
I guess that's
that?
true.
When is a red eye flight considered?
Because
there is a portion of time between 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning where I don't think anyone's really flying.
I think there may in fact be some sort of like regulations against that.
Because I know we one time had a flight get delayed when we were in Iceland. It was a layover in Iceland that got delayed. And from the hours of, I think it was 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning, mm-hmm. we had to physically leave the airport and then could come back in. Mm-hmm. But they have to have it cleared out, which stunk for the reason that it was like 30 degrees
Mm-hmm.
and I was cold.
In Iceland?
Mm-hmm.
That's strange.
I know, right? Who would have thought? But I do think there's a regulation where they have to be not closed, but clean for like an hour. I
maybe.
think.
I don't know. That could make some sense.
That was pre-COVID too, so that wasn't like a COVID cleaning thing.
Right. No, this was like I just remembered like last night I was driving her to the airport. I'm like, man, it is late, like late. I don't know. I'm.
To answer your question though, I guess about do I have a problem with late flights? I'm a pretty big person on. I like to my goal if I'm having to fly, I don't know. I like to be able to get back at a reasonable hour so I can get my life together. So I guess usually like the latest flight I would take out of somewhere would be like depending on how far you're going, but I would like to be landed by 9.
Yes.
So I can still have
Because that's the thing for me.
And then get ready.
Because that's the thing for me is that this is she was going to land at like 12:15 a.m. And then it's like, all right, it's not just go home. It's like wait for a bag and then get picked, like she was getting picked up. And then like, I mean, you're talking about 1 o'clock before she's even home. It is, I don't know. It seemed kind of crazy to me.
I will say like the thing, if we're talking like vacation flight though, I don't mind catching a late flight back on vacation. 1, that gives you basically a whole other day of stuff to do. And then 2, if at all cost, I always try to have at least one day where I'm back at home on vacation so I can get my life together. So that would be a time that I don't really mind flying in late. But yeah, if it's some sort of work trip or something, I want to try and get back by a reasonable hour.
Yeah, I need that minute to get home. And so, I mean, I'll do it, whatever it takes. But like, I don't know. Like last night, especially, it struck me. I was like, this is an extremely late flight.
That is late.
But I also hate morning flights too because I don't want to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get for like a 5 o'clock flight because that's just
I think sweet spots for flights are like if you can like 9 or 10 in the morning because you can get there at 7 or 8 and it'd be okay. Like anything before that, if you're having to get there in like the 6 o'clock hour, that's a rough flight to get on.
It's tough. It's a tough scene. That's why I'm glad I don't fly. I don't fly commercial. That's why that one.
Yes, your private jet just comes and swoops you up whenever you need it.
Don't hate the player, hate the game. Hit the Amex. Pickle! Hit the arrow sign. Yes, y'all. From the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Mothership here in beautiful Louisville, Texas, it is Texas Football Today presented by our friends at VCR Now. My name's Greg Tupper. I'm the managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football magazine, TexasFootball.com, a corresponding website. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. Whether you're watching us live, TexasFootball.com, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all of the places, or you're listening to the podcast, which you can subscribe to on the podcast vendor of your choice. Either way, thank you for doing your part to support your local mediocre internet show. I'm sitting over there at the helm today, making us sound good. Although she doesn't sound good. She's the Duchess of Dork. She's Ashley Pickle. You got to rally.
I am rallying. It's a lot better today than it was yesterday.
Well, you got to rally because today you've got WTF.
Yeah, that's why I haven't talked to anyone this morning. Saving it up.
The second episode of WTF coming up today at 2.
Yep,
2 o'clock. Wherever you're watching this, you can watch WTF coming up here in just a little bit. Today is Thursday, July 21st, 2022. 126 days till Thanksgiving. Happy birthday to Bel Air Episcopal grad. Maybe grad. I don't know if he graduated there. Bel Air Episcopal's own, Texas A&M's own, the Dallas Mavericks own.
Gross.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
DeAndre Jordan.
Oh, yeah. I guess I could have figured
Turns
that
34 today. Happy birthday to DeAndre Jordan. Episode 1419. On today's show, folks, we're going to talk a little bit about what the UIL said or really didn't say at the THSCA Coaching School and Convention and what it means for the future of Texas high school football going forward. A couple of noteworthy things that's worth talking about. We'll get onto that. And then back half the show, Matt Stepp caught up with the head coach of those Abilene Eagles, Coach Mike Fullen, to talk a little bit of black and gold football out there in Abilene. We'll hear from Mike Fullen, our interview with him at the THSCA Coaching School and Convention, coming up here at the back half of the program. Do we have first four through the door, Pickle?
We sure do. It was Nick Morton, Just Chad, Tony Blaylock, and Aaron Arbuckle. Welcome in, fellas. Also, Stepp. Yeah, did you see Stepp's flight got really super delayed back to Canada? It was supposed to leave at 5:15, and it didn't leave till 9. So he was flying late up to the Great White North.
Man, and let me tell you, you know what gets old real quickly is airports.
Yep.
Being in an airport sucks the life out of you in a quick way. Anyway. All right, Pickle. We're back from San Antonio in the THSCA Coaching School and Convention. And obviously there's a lot that goes on at the THSCA Coaching School and Convention. For example, Kendall Miller of Frisco Emerson was elected the THSCA president-elect. They always do a weird thing. It's hard for people to wrap their head around. But like basically they do the president-elect, and the president-elect is basically like waiting in the wings for an entire year, and then he gets gavelled in. So, for example, who became the president this time around?
Lee Wigington.
Lee Wigington and Allen became the president.
Which technically he would have been inducted when he was still at Midlothian Heritage, and then now he's at Allen.
But John King's watch ended at there, but he was elected like 2 years ago, which is weird. So his watch ended.
Which really is a great way to do it, because then they get basically 2 years of work out of the guys, if we're being honest.
I presume that John King just like threw his sport coat out the window on the way back to Gregg County.
And was like, back to ball.
Yeah, like, back to ball, back to what I want to do. But Lee Wigington is the new president, and Kendall Miller of Frisco Emerson is the new president-elect. I believe he is the first black coach to be the president-elect of the THSCA, which is pretty cool. Anyway, Kendall Miller, the new president-elect. So there's a lot of business that goes on like that, a lot of content that we get. Obviously, we're going to be playing interviews, and you can find them on TexasFootball.com. But one of the things that also happens is, as we all start to think about football season, there's a couple of people that we are really interested in talking to. One of them came by the booth. We wanted to get him on an interview set. It just didn't line up. But Bill Theodore of the Texas Association of Sports Officials. Texas Association of Sports Officials run through. They do a lot of seminars on what the rule changes are heading into the fall. There's a couple of noteworthy ones. One of them is that they is a rule against cut blocking in the tackle box, which is bad news for teams that run like the slot T. That's going to be pretty challenging for them, but that is a rule that, if you didn't know, the UIL goes through. They use the NCAA rules to run their football. They do not use what is the National Federation of High Schools, which is, if you go to Florida, if you go to Pennsylvania, if you go to a number of other places, cut blocking has been banned for a long time. At all levels. I mean, you can't do it at the if you're cut blocking a safety like on a downfield block. Anyway, within the tackle box, you can no longer cut block, which is going to be a challenge for a number of teams. Another thing is, do you remember last year when the Pitt quarterback, I forget his name, but the Pitt quarterback basically faked a slide and then was able to pick up like a touchdown on it? Yeah, I do remember that. That rule has been changed by the NCAA, and so that rule has now been changed by the UIL, in the sense that you cannot fake a quarterback slide. I don't know if I saw it in high school last year, but you can't do it. That one has been run out of the paint. You can't do that. So those were kind of the headliners as far as rule changes are concerned. But the other thing that happens that's particularly noteworthy is the UIL has a press conference.
Yep.
Now, if we have a question for the UIL, they're pretty responsive. They're available if you have questions. Like throughout the year, like if in 3 weeks I have a question about some sort of rule, I can email our friends at the UIL, and Dr. Jamie Harrison and the communications staff will get back to us and let us know. So it's not like they're unavailable, but it is kind of strange that for an organization as wide-ranging and as kind of omnipotent in a lot of ways as the UIL, they don't do press conferences. No. They do essentially one a year. They don't really do one at state football. They don't really do one here, there. You know, they're available for interviews, but they don't really do sit down, or rather standard press conferences. But they do one, and that is at THSCA Coaching School and Convention. And it was held Sunday morning. They had a press conference. Our own Matt Stepp and I believe Greg Powers went to it. Were there any other of our nerds there?
Yeah, a lot of them went.
A few of them. Okay.
Yeah, I know Ish was there, and I think Craven was there, too.
Okay. And it's an opportunity to ask the muckety mucks there at the UIL, specifically Executive Director Dr. Charles Breidup, Deputy Executive Director Dr. Jamie Harrison, and Athletic Director Dr. Susan Elza, WTF Zone, some questions. The overall headline of the UIL press conference was not much. Not a whole lot was brought up. There have been times where they've dropped some bombshells. For example, that's where they, a few years ago, where they kind of said that they were giving the one-time exemption for Bally Sports Southwest to do their what has become Texas Football Days. That has also been where...
Isn't that where the streaming news during COVID came out?
Streaming news came out during COVID, things like that. But this particular one, there wasn't really a huge headline. If you're talking about what did come out of there, there's a couple of things that are worth noting. One of them is that the streaming rule, the web streaming rule, has become official and permanent. That is not going anywhere. That is going to be something that you can live web stream games going forward on Friday nights. That was something that came out during the pandemic and that they've kept around, and that is now permanent. They announced that. I don't know if they've said that publicly, but that was something we assumed was going to be the case, but it is now permanent. You can now web stream games on Friday night. I think that's good. I also have a dog in the hunt because we own Texan Live, so I think that's good. But I also think that when you talk with coaches, they wanted that to happen anyway. They liked that kind of coverage, and liked being able to have the game broadcast, and so I think it's good for the sport.
Everyone tends to be in favor of out-of-state grandma being able to watch their kids play. Yeah, generally speaking.
Generally speaking. And I think that overall you've seen that there hasn't necessarily been that the concern about is this going to hurt the gate has been pretty unfounded. And so the live streaming rule is now permanent. That's one thing. Another thing that they came out with was that they did say that they had technically not announced, kind of weird, they hadn't announced where the state championships were going to be. The state championships for 2022 will be at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Dr. Jamie Harrison and he admitted to at the press conference, he says, I do not have the contract in front of me. He goes, I know that it is in 2022 that it'll be at AT&T. He said, and I believe him, I don't know how long the contract runs offhand. I can look it up, but I don't know how long the contract runs. Here is that is the fact. Here, let's now move into the Greg Tepper opinion zone. In talking with folks around the UIL, they like it at AT&T Stadium. They're comfortable there. And while they want to continue for there to be opportunities for Houston and San Antonio, most notably, to bid on it, I know that it would take some pretty overwhelming bid from them for them to move it in the next couple of years.
Oh, right.
That's kind of how I feel.
Well, and
my vibe, my read of the tea leaves.
I was fixing to say, you want to talk about at least number facts. We've done the math on looking at all of the teams that have made it since it's been there. And legitimately, that's the most centralized location, at least for the years that it has been played there. So there are some number of facts of it doesn't seem like it because you look at a state map, but the teams that have been qualifying, it really has been one of the most centralized locations that it could have been in, possibly.
Right. I think that's right. So the 2022 state championship games will be at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. We suspected that. We now have confirmation of that. The other headline that came out that got some people talking was, I believe it was Stepp, because he's a fire starter. He asked the question about Class 7A. It's been rumored for a couple of years now. When is the UIL going to launch a Class 7A? And what is it going to look like? When does it look like? And so that question was fielded to Dr. Jamie Harrison, who is really their realignment wonk. He's the guy who does a lot of the nitty-gritty, and he gets into it. And I've had a lot of very fun, weird conversations with him about what realignment looks like and how to do it better. In any case, the response to that was that the UIL said they're going to look at a Class 7A in 2024 for the next realignment. They're going to look at it. Now, they followed that up pretty quickly by saying The math doesn't make sense right now.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense to launch a Class 7A right now. And it probably won't. We've got the whole quote up on TexasFootball.com if you want to go. Here, Dr. Harrison. We probably should have pulled it and played it on the show. That would be the thing that a good internet show does, but that's not us. But essentially, what he signaled was that Class 7A is unlikely in 2024. I think that he didn't rule it out, but he essentially said that the math is not there. We'll be looking at it's really a math problem. You have to go too far to make a 7A work currently. Now, the demographics and the populations are shifting in the state of Texas in a pretty significant way, but reading between the lines of what Dr. Harrison said, it seems unlikely that in 2024 we'll have Class 7A.
Mm-hmm.
2026?
Maybe.
That would be 4 years from now. You can do math. But it seems like right now they don't feel comfortable putting a 7A out there simply because there's just not enough schools of that size, and that it would be creating its own different kind of problems. Like, what do you do with programs that are way out there that have no other 7A teams around them? And by no other 7A teams around them, I mean within like 200 miles of them.
Right. And the thing that we keep pounding on with this is the fact that this doesn't like everyone thinks it just affects like Class 6A. Okay, well clearly it's just going to affect it doesn't. Class 3 and 4A would be the ones that would take the biggest hit here almost, and which is wild to think about, but it really is a trickle-down effect, and the UIL being encompassing of everyone, it just doesn't make sense right now.
So essentially, here's a quote, and I'm picking this up from our friend Mike Fullen at the Victoria Advocate. Dr. Jamie Harrison of the UIL said, it's really a math problem. He explained that there's 500 schools in 5A and 6A and 190 in Class 4A. Quote, you're going to need about 600 schools to make that work. We know we have 500. Where's that other 100 going to come from? When you look at the bottom of the current 5A down to pick up another 100, you're going to have to go pretty deep into the enrollment. You get into that 1,100, 1,200, 1,300 range. There just aren't that many schools. He did admit, though, this is reading directly from Mike Fullen of the Victoria Advocate, Harrison admitted the state's growth makes adding Class 7A a good possibility for the future. Quote, Texas is such a fast-growing state. There are some school districts where it feels like they open a new high school every 7 minutes. As those continue to be added to the roster of UIL schools, we get closer and closer to that 7A rank. So that's where it's going. Mm-hmm. Right now, I think everybody's itching for it because I think everyone looks at kind of the discrepancy between the very top of 6A and the very bottom of 6A, which can be like 5,000 students, and they say, we've got to find a way to do that. But essentially, that's where they're at. They're waiting for more schools to come online. And when more schools come online, then the necessity of a 7A will become more and more apparent. But for now, it just doesn't seem like that's necessary or viable at the moment. Mm-hmm. In 2 years, I think Dr. Harrison is kind of saying out loud, doesn't seem like it's going to be viable then either. 2026? Maybe we're getting to that point. But I think as far as if you're looking for a timeline of when Class 7A is going to come online in Texas high school football, 2026 would probably be the earliest realistic, barring some sort of major demographic shift or something unforeseen.
It's going to take suburb areas around the DFW and around Houston to make this work. I feel like Frisco is the prime example of this in my opinion. It's like they keep opening new schools. There are thousands of kids going to those schools. Like it's going to take those suburbs really blowing up to make this work as easily as possible. So that's what you got to think about. It's a holistic approach there for the UIL. They've got it. I agree with you. I think that it's like, wow, you've got schools with 5,000 kids playing kids with 2,200 kids. How does that make sense? I agree with you. There is a problem there, but at the same time, you can't create different problems for different schools and say this is better. You have to weigh everything. So that's the update from the UIL. Again, it was a relatively not very newsworthy press conference. Yeah. Dr. Jamie Harrison came by our booth and I chatted with him. And he did say he was like, it was kind of nice to just have a boring press conference that we weren't talking about COVID mitigation strategies, or are we going to limit the number of fans in the stands, stuff like that. I imagine for them it was a relief to just kind of get back to normal football and fielding Matt Sepp's questions. But in any case, that's the news from the THSCA Coaching School and Convention and the annual UIL press conference. You can go and hear Dr. Jamie Harrison's full response on the Class 7A if you go to TexasFootball.com.
We are Texas Football Today. We're here every weekday at noon on TexasFootball.com, talking football in the Lone Star State. You can follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, Instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And, of course, see us at TexasFootball.com. TexasFootball.com is where you can find complete coverage of high school football, college football, and Cruton all across the Lone Star State. Pickle. Every high school athlete wants to play on the big stage. Every parent wants their child to be the best, but is making your target list of schools based on top 25 rankings really the best strategy? What about academics? What about location, coaching style, financial aid? There's so many different factors that should be considered when selecting a college program outside of just on-field performance. That's why our friends at Athletes to Athletes have put together a recruiting guide centered around providing a broader, more holistic perspective on what your college experience could be. Complete with checklists, do's and don'ts, key strategies, and much, much more, this 22-page guide covers everything you and your family should know as you walk through your college recruiting journey. And here's the fun part. For a limited time, Athletes to Athletes is offering this guide for free to our audience. All you got to do is go to athletetoathletes.com/Dave Campbell today to download the free college recruiting guide. That's athletetoathletes.com/Dave Campbell to get your free ultimate guide to understanding college recruiting. They lay it all out there. So go to athletetoathletes.com/Dave Campbell or scan that QR code to get your free college recruiting guide from our friends at Athletes to Athletes. Pickle, while we were at the THSCA Coaching School and Convention in San Antonio, we did at least 3 interviews with coaches.
That is factually correct.
One of them, Matt Stepp, caught up with the head Eagle out there in Abilene, of the black and gold Abilene Eagles, the Warbirds as they call them. It is Coach Mike Fullen. Here's Matt Stepp's conversation with Abilene head coach Mike Fullen here on Texas Football Today.
Matt Stepp, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, back here at the 90th Annual Texas High School Coaches Association and Convention. Here at the head coach of the Abilene Eagles, my wife's alma mater, Coach Mike Fullen. Coach, I appreciate you chatting with us this morning.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be
My
here.
wife was wearing the shirt you gave me at 7-on-7 the other day, so she was representing up in Canada.
All right, man.
There you go. So
got the brand in Canada.
there you go. Worldwide branding for the Warbirds, right?
Absolutely.
First off, Coach, the convention is rocking and rolling on day 2. There's all kinds of amazing vendors and stuff that the guys are all the technology. I can't keep up with it half the time. It's all this awesome stuff. Then the fellowship that you have with your fellow coaches and getting to see guys you've coached with in the past. I mean, I don't want to date you, but there might be some guys you've coached that are now coaching football as well. So getting to see those guys is pretty awesome. Just talk about how important and special it is to be a part of the Texas High School Coaches Association.
Well, I mean, it's the greatest association, the biggest association of its kind in the nation. And, to serve as a board of director on it has been a blessing. This will be my last year. I'm a senior director, so I'll be going off after this coaching school. And just from how much it's changed since my time on the board and the explosion and the expansion of everything is just tremendous. You know, our membership numbers have gone up each and every year. And, we've worked out ways to make it easier for registration.
I heard registration went great. I mean, the line was long yesterday, which is awesome because it means the coaches are coming. But I heard you guys were able to get through it really quick.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was great, and we always, on the years that I've served, we come in on Wednesday morning and we kind of have a debriefing of the convention and what we could do better, what can we expand on, and I think each and every year it's just gotten better, and we've gone through some craziness. In the last 3 to 5 years with the COVID and not having the convention and having to do it online but where it's at, the association in a great place, and it's really we're taking on more members. We're having more opportunities to have services for all sports.
Oh yeah, that's a big thing I noticed is all the sports. Yeah,
and I really think the big deal is the coaches and the presenters here. They don't so much want to stand up and lecture. They want to do the demonstrations, and I think that's the biggest benefit that a lot of the coaches get is because, so many coaches are visual.
Yeah.
And when you go to a lecture, you kind of – but when you get out here and you see it raw and you see the demonstration, I think that's the biggest thing and the biggest leap that the association has made at coaching school and what's made this convention so much bigger and better.
It's amazing, yeah. And we turn our attention now to the Abilene Eagles in the 2022 season. First off, the offseason, I felt like you guys had a good offseason. I watched you guys in 7-on-7. You guys qualified for state there. And we know it's not real football. I mean, the big boys aren't involved, and the big boys are an important part of the game. But to get that experience for your skill guys has got to be important. And it felt like, to me, watching you guys, I feel like for the Abilene Eagles in 2022, one area that I think you guys are going to be really good in, I love your secondary. I think your secondary is going to be a really good secondary. Talk about those guys a little bit and how important they are to your defense.
Well, we've got a lot of experience back there. We've got guys that are two of them are 3-year starters, and some of them are returning, and our whole defense is going to be experienced, and our secondary is a huge part of the way that we play defense, because we have a unique way that we play the 3-4, and our safeties and outside backers are really interchangeable, and we've got experience there. We've got experience at just about every position on defense, and so we're looking for those guys to really help us out a lot. Noah Hatcher, Jason Henley are guys that step out. Kwame Collins, Kevion Williams. We have Beckham Paul, who will also come over and serve some as a possible quarterback for us, who's a unique athlete. And as well as some of those guys that are in secondary are going to probably come over and help us some on the offensive side, just because of their unique athleticism that we don't normally get coming through Abilene High.
Yeah, they're very talented
we're going to
kids.
take full advantage of it, and so looking forward to what those guys can do.
And just from what I've talked to folks on the offensive side of the ball, I feel like where you guys are looking for some young guys to maybe step up and mature and grow up might be up front on the offensive line. How has that process gone with those young guys, and how much have you seen them grow up this offseason?
It's gone well. We've had a good summer strength and conditioning with those guys, and as I've transitioned as a head coach, being on the defensive side for so long, I've kind of gravitated to the offensive side, and not so much X's and O's. I get over there with the offensive line. We've got our little club, and so I make it a big deal to make a big deal about those guys and our D line, and I've seen those guys really come together. We switch some things around, which you do, and that's really what we do to utilize spring ball is to find your offense and defensive linemen, because your skill guys are normally involved in other sports, and we try not to affect track and baseball. And so we're primarily looking in spring ball for offensive defensive line, because your skill guys, if they're playing baseball or running track or soccer or whatever, then they probably can throw and catch a football. But you got to find your grinders down in the trenches, and that's what we utilize spring ball for, and we think we found a good group to put together.
All right, now realignment in February came and went, and to the uneducated observer, they may say, oh, Abilene High drops down to Class 5A. It's going to be a breeze for those guys. And I would say you would probably agree with me. No breezes in District 2 5A Division 1. That is a really good district top to bottom. I think Tepper and I said 1 through 7, I'm not sure there's a better district in the state of Texas, and I feel like there's going to be 2 or 3 really good football teams that don't make the playoffs because of the depth in your district. It's going to be a grind every single week.
Oh, yeah. People ask me, what's going to be the difference. I said there's not really going to be any difference other than the classification that we went down from the district that we've been in, being with the Midland and Odessas and the Centrals and Friendships. It was week in, week out. You had to play good ball because there was good ball being played, and everybody was well coached. And all we've really done is turn our needle a little bit northwest and headed up to the Amarillas, and we've played all those schools before in non-district, so we're fully aware of the competition, and what I'm excited about is coming out of District 2 6A, where football is important to the community, and football is coached, and there's a passion for it. There's that same passion and commitment to football in the district that we're going in, so I'm excited about it. I know it's going to be a battle week in and week out, and you've got to be ready to play good football every week.
Final question for you, Coach. Abilene ISD is making some. There's some facility upgrades that are coming down the pike. You got turf on your fields now on campus, which I know is huge. Just from missed practice time and being able to get out on the field and practice. There's stadium upgrades are coming at Shotwell Stadium and some other awesome facility upgrades that are coming on campus for you guys and Cooper. How excited are you to see the commitment from Abilene ISD administration and the community of Abilene to being successful in athletics and giving you guys the tools that you need to continue to stay competitive?
Well, it's huge, to do that. I've been a part of AISD for 25 years, and I've seen, the expansion and the growth, and it's really come on recently with the turf fields on both campuses, and then we're going to start build on indoor facilities on both campuses in September. And
fired up about that.
Oh, fired up. And it's not, and everybody wants to tie it to football.
Exactly.
But
I was just going to say that.
Tell them, you don't understand. We'll use it, but we will use it less. The other sports, your sports from January to May, will utilize it more than anybody else because of the uniqueness of our area and the seasons. It's 85 one day, and then the next day it's 32 and blowing sleet sideways. Those other sports, that's why it's a multi-sport facility, and so we're excited about that. And of course, as soon as the season ends this year, with the first round of the playoffs, where hopefully you've got a home,
hoping to host a game, yeah.
But after that, they're gonna immediately start to work on Shotwell, and that's I've said it before. It's going to be epic with the change. And
it's already a wonderful stadium. It's one of my favorites in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
And you get that awesome brand new press box in there. It's going to be a special place.
Just looking at the rollouts of it and going through some turn pages on what they're going to be doing, it's going to be really nice, and it's going to really help our community and draw some people that have maybe bypassed this before. That it's going to definitely be an upgrade and just add to the mystique of Shotwell, and it was time for a facelift,
Well, I'll tell you, you mentioned the indoor. Aside from the other sports that can use it, the band can get in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
ROTC can get in
Absolutely.
there. It's a multi-purpose complex, not just for athletics. I think it's going to benefit all the students at Abilene High and Cooper High as well. I think it's a great thing for the community.
Extremely fired up about that, and just what we're doing and the commitment that our board and our administration is making, and as you well know, if you want to have good programs, and we've had a steady, for years of having good programs athletically, and that starts at the top, and having good alignment with your board and with your administration, and we've been blessed to have that in Abilene.
Well, Coach, I know you're very busy. We appreciate you taking a few minutes to come through and chat with us. Good luck in 2022 with the Abilene Eagles, and we appreciate what you do for student athletes in the state of Texas.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
There is Mike Fullen, head coach of the Abilene Eagles, talking with Matt Stepp at the THSCA Coaching School and Convention in San Antonio. We sure appreciate his time. Reminder, we are consistently uploading interviews from THSCA on our YouTube channel, and we'll be posting them on TexasFootball.com, so go check out who we talked to. Got a bunch of them up already.
We do.
Let's go over to Ashley Pickle for America's second favorite segment. Final thoughts?
Couple things. We talked a lot about 7A. Step in the Facebook comments put out a link to an article that he had written a while back of what it would look like, what schools would be included in 7A. So if that kind of sparked your interest of what that could look like, his is based on a 16 size team classification rather than a 32. So there's that. Region, I guess, not team. Another thing is a lot of people are asking when magazines should be out on shelf. If you will remember, we did come across supply chain issues, but they are being printed now. The ones that'll all be in the retail stores. Yeah, I was going to say you went yesterday, but they'll be in stores on like August.
Yeah, it's going to be early August before they're going to be out on shelves. But if you go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe, we can mail you one right now. We still have a limited number here in our office from the original print run we did. I'm not happy about it, but if you go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe, you can get it. It's also, for subscribers, we've also got the digital version of it. So you can go. You don't even have to, if you can subscribe today, and you can just go access the digital version at TexasFootball.com/archive, and you can watch that there. And then also, I don't know if you saw this email we got. We've got if you go to the team pages, the individual team page previews are updated on the team pages. So if you become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football subscriber at texasfootball.com/subscribe, you can basically read everything that's in the magazine. Right now, we'll also put a print magazine in the mail for you. But as far as on shelves is concerned, we're still looking at early August, which stinks, and I hate it, and I think it's dumb. So thumbs down.
Yeah. Women Talking Football at 2.
WTF coming up here at 2,
That's
so
all
make
we got.
sure you watch that.
Those are all my thoughts.
It's going to do it for us. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Dave Campbells. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Dave Campbells. And, of course, see us at texasfootball.com. Thanks again to Mike Fullen of Abilene for being our guest. For Ashley Pickle, I'm Greg Tepper. Vince Young, please get your Player of the Year trophy. We'll see you tomorrow on Texas Football Today.